conference will now be recorded.
Thank you for joining the City of King Special Finance meeting with the budget discussing the Recreation Department. Today is Monday, November 16th. My name is Andrea Schott, an organizer for our virtual meetings. Before we begin, we would like to go over a few guidelines to help us navigate the system as efficiently and respectfully as possible. We ask that members of the public and press remain muted and off camera for the length of the meeting. As organizer, I reserve the right to mute anyone who unmutes themselves. Council members and city staff will control their own mute button. Good practice would be to mute yourself if you are not speaking to avoid background noise and feedback. If a council member or staff wishes to speak, will raise their hands. The chairperson will call on them before they speak by stating their name clearly for our audio listeners. All of our meetings are recorded. Both video and written transcriptions will be made available to the public on the city's website. Although we will not have public speaking tonight, you could sign up to speak at our next council meeting by emailing Elisa Tinty, or you could also submit written comments by emailing Elisa Tinty at emtinty@kingston-ny.gov, or by dropping them off outside the side door of City Hall. We also encourage you to reach out to committee chairs or your ward's representative. If you have any audio issues, send a text message to the following number, 845-6120. Please note that phone calls will not be answered during the meeting. The number again to text is 845-594-6120. As the organizer, I reserve the right to lock and pause the meeting to eject anyone who has behaved inappropriately. And lastly, at tonight's meeting, we have in attendance Chair Alderman Doug Koop, Finance Committee members, Alderman Rennie Scott Childress, Alderwoman Michelle Hirsch, Alderman Steve Shabbat, and Alderman Tony Davis. Non-voting council members, we have Alderman Don Tollerman, Alderman Patrick O'Reilly, and city staff, we have City Clerk Elisa Tinty, Director of Recreation Lindsay Timbrook, Comptroller John Toohey, and Superintendent of DPW Ed Norman. Thank you for your patience during these difficult times, and on behalf of the Common Council, I wish you and your family good health. And I now turn the floor to Chair Doug Koop.
Okay, thank you, Madam President, and thank everyone from city staff and the council members for being here, and particularly for non-voting members. Patrick and Don, thank you for attending tonight. Your input is valued. So, Lindsay, I'd like to welcome you to your first budget review meeting. So, nice to have you with us. I will just start tonight. We're going to review the 13 sub-departments within the Department of Parks and Recreation. I'll just make as an opening comment that we looked at the variance from one year to the next, and the total department variance is favorable by $307,395. And of course, that's a favorable state of affairs. But as you go through the 13 departments, there are many ups and downs that we will want to look at and try and understand. Some of the larger ones being administration, Midtown Neighborhood Center, and particularly the stadium. But before we go into the 13 departments, I'd like to reverse the normal order in deference to the fact that Ed Norman is attending tonight. I'd like to go first to the capital plan while Ed is with us. We normally do this last for some reason. I don't know why, but we always seem to do that. But I'd like to reverse that tonight and see if there are any questions on the Parks and Recreation capital plan, which are only two items. One is a 3-ton pickup truck with a plow and sander for $46,000 and a zero-turn mower, whatever that is, for $15,000. So I'd like to ask, are there any particular questions on the capital plan, which total $61,000? Yes, Tony Davis.
So, Tony Davis here. Ed and Lindsay, can you explain? I know, Ed, in your department of works, you're getting you requested a dump truck, 6-wheel, and plow and sander, and another F550 plow and sander. And what's the difference? And between this one and then the one that the Parks and Recs are asking for, 3/4 ton pickup with plow and sander.
Right. Well, that's just it. This is for the Parks Department, which is still separate from DPW. They have their own equipment to do their own parking lots. They have their own routes, different things to do. This year, we actually lost one of the vehicles due to an accident. The vehicle was totaled. Last year, the Parks Department lost a sander, salt sander spreader. DPW wound up giving them one of ours, which was our spare. Needless to say, that was in pretty poor shape. That got wore out last year. This year, we wound up rebuilding. We took two and made one out of it, and it's, hopefully going to be enough to get through the winter here, but we really need to update the parks side of this. So it's basically replacing something that was totaled.
Right. Thank you.
Okay.
Are there any other comments or questions on the cap? Yes, Rennie.
Well, what is a zero-turn mower?
Thank you.
Okay. The zero-turn mowers are the ones that have the big wheels on the back, and they have the very wide cutting deck on them that you sit on, and it has the two little kind of caster wheels in the front, and that's typically what they use. We currently have two of those, is what we use now. They're 2012 and 2013 models. The 2012 was probably spent most of the time in the shop this year instead of cutting grass. So when Kevin had his capital plan here, he actually had two on here, but his numbers were a bit off. So it wound up, I just went for the one for the 15,000 because I think that'll get us through another year. But I mean, that's pretty much minimal, what I need for that to get through. We've taken on more and more stuff to do this year with the rail trails and the parks. I need that extra machine on there.
Other questions on capital plan? Okay, Ed, I thank you for attending tonight. You're certainly welcome to sit through the rest of the meeting, but that was the main thing that we appreciate your attendance at here tonight.
Okay, no problem. Lindsay, if you want me to stick around, that's fine. If there's anything that comes up, with personnel crossover, I can just be on call here. I'll turn my camera off and be ready if you need me. Mary Jo, okay, Mary Jo, I think can speak to most of this. I think we should be in pretty good shape.
Okay, thank you, Ed. As I said at the outset, we're reviewing 13 sub-departments within Parks and Recreation, again, which total favorable variance. That means less money than last year of $307,395, although there's some huge puts and takes to get there, and that's what we want to understand. So I would propose we go through line item by line item, each of the individual sub-departments, starting with Recreation Administration, which is sheet number 1 on the variance sheets and page 138 in the budget book. I would notice that personal regular pay is down about $10,000. Contracted expenses are down about $12,855, totaling, and a few other smaller things, totaling a favorable variance of $33,944. So, Lindsay, I would ask, regular pay is down somewhat, maybe 10%. Why is that?
Regular pay, I mean, there seems to be some shifts in personnel. as you can see, Lisa is being moved to the wastewater treatment line. Carol is coming over to our department. With Mary Jo's retirement, that leaves a little bit of a change as well. And we still have Maureen, where I think a portion will be coming out of our budget as well for her helping on the financial end with the laborers.
Okay. Line 472, contracted service, line 471, excuse me, service contracts down $11,500. That's good news, but why is that? 471, service contracts.
Doug, that got moved. That was the parks maintenance uniform contract got moved over to the parks end instead of here. It used to be charged here. It just got moved over to a different account.
Okay. Okay. It's one of the questions I have on administration. Anyone else? Yes, Tony.
Tony Davis here. Lindsay or Mary Jo, what's standby? And why is that gone? Or you guys, that looks like it's been put over into parks. Is that correct, Mary Jo?
Correct. Yes. That's our on duty, our weekend on duty pay.
Okay. That's why. Okay. I do have a note here that that's been moved. All right. Thank you.
Moving to sheet 2, which is adult recreation, page 156 in the budget.
Doug, I have one more question if we're going to move to another sheet.
Go ahead, Tony.
And in regard to the position titles, Lindsay, Mary Jo, can you explain that? I mean, it looks like you had, last year you had director, operating finance, 0.20, and a clerk, right?
Correct.
126,000. Now you're 110,000, and you're actually for principal account clerk now and administrative aid.
Yes. And as mentioned with Mary Jo's retirement, we didn't have someone to do payroll. Lisa is a clerk. And so it's not within her job description to do payroll. And so we needed to have an option for someone to be able to take care of that for our department.
And who's that?
That would be Carol.
Hubbard.
Hubbard. Yep.
So where is she coming from? Is she
no, she's from wastewater treatment.
So now she's gonna be doing it. She's in that. Her job position has that qualification.
Correct.
So that's why it's more money.
Yes. She's a higher grade.
Yeah, she's a higher grade than Lisa. And Maureen is taking over some of my duties, and that's where Maureen's the principal account clerk. And she's a current employee also.
All right. The clerk was you, Mary Jo?
I was the finance and operations.
Operation finance. Okay, I see that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So clerk can't, this is out of a clerk's position, job description to do payroll. So that's why you have administrative aid.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to adult recreation, which shows an unfavorable variance of $15,812, primarily by the addition, it looks like, more seasonal employees, $16,500. Can I ask, this is line 111, personal services, seasonal employees is up. That means unfavorable variance, $16,500. You're bringing in more people in adult recreation?
Some of this...
seasonal employees is actually down. Line item of 111 is down, if I'm looking at this right. Unless I need glasses.
No, it's unfavorable. It's costing us $16,500 more than last year.
Which budget? You're in parks, right? 71110?
Sheet 2. He moved to sheet 2, so it's now.
I don't get sheet 2. So you're on.
Tony, Tony, I'm speaking now about adult recreation, which is sheet 2, which is page 156 in the budget book.
Alrighty, okay, I'm sorry. I was
all
on
right.
box.
Yeah, it's okay. Line 111 shows an increase of $16,500 for seasonal employees, which accounts for most of the change for that whole sub-department. And I'm just inquiring as to why 111 is up that much, almost double.
Doug, as part of the merger or the shared responsibilities between Parks and Rec now, some seasonal money was moved around a little bit here. There should really over the course of the entire budget, there really shouldn't be any increase in seasonal money. But it was moved from account to kind of to help with this transition a little bit.
Okay. Now I understand there's a lot of that. And as I said, bottom line, the whole recreation department is under substantially, $307,000. So I understand there's, as I call it, puts and takes, some favorable, some unfavorable. But on balance, it's in the total, it's very favorable. So I understand we're going to see some of this.
Yes.
Any other questions on adult education, adult recreation? Yeah, Michelle. Michelle?
Coming, sorry. Greetings. Hello, all. So I just had some questions about the user fees under revenue. I imagine that a lot of stuff was canceled this year and could potentially even be canceled next year. So I'm a little concerned that we're overestimating.
Yeah, part of our budgeting, I really tried to be as optimistic as possible. We are hopeful that, at some point, whether there's a vaccine or COVID starts to slow and things start to open up, we really want to make sure that we're prepared, and that, we're trying to plan ahead for that. At some point things will reopen, as we saw, softball, I think, opened up midsummer, and some of our staff were furloughed, so we were unable to do that program. And so we just want to trying our best to put things in place for when the time comes to start these programs again.
Thank you. I know you guys have been very fluid with all the kids and all the various things that have had to happen. So thank you. Do we have a real number, though, of what we've taken in for revenue, John?
In this account, it's very little. It's just a couple $1,000s in this account. I think it's important to note that anything, if we get another, and we know what we're going through now, but if there's an impact of the virus on what programs we run next year, and that has an impact on the revenue, keep in mind that there certainly will be an impact on the expenses. Even this year alone, when I look at the Parks and Rec, the seasonal expense, even after the reductions to the budget part of the COVID plan, we're over $200,000 underspent in seasonal employees. So, if these programs don't get off the ground, we won't bring in revenue for them, but we also will have to trim our expenses. And a lot of that are these seasonal employees that we just won't have the expense for next year. So if you lose it on one side, we're definitely going to lose it on the other as well. And we do try to offset that just to kind of keep it back in minds. We're going through these. But yeah, in that account, Michelle, it's just a couple $1,000. It's very, very minor right now.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Tony
Davis here. So John, looking back over it, let's say like 3 years, is this 53,000? Is that something that's been met?
Yeah, I mean, we're right in that ballpark. Let me I'll pull up the number. The 2 years prior to 2020, we averaged in the neighborhood of $52,000 for those 2 years. We're at just about 51,000 in 2019. We're at 51,000 in 2019. We're at 54,000 in 2018. We're
54?
at 58,000. We were somewhere between $50 and $58,000. Everyone hear me?
Yep.
Okay.
Gotcha. Okay, other questions on adult recreation? Let's move to sheet 3, which is beaches and pools. Page 148 in the budget book. A very small favorable change of $281, driven mostly by a reduction. Well, there's an increase of $2,200 in contracted services, but offset by a number of smaller favorable. And for the only thing I see of it that I would that stands out is that $2,200 unfavorable in contracted services. Is that hiring of lifeguards that we didn't have this year, or? I'm talking about line 472.
Oh, that.
That's mostly that small increase is due to like the Wi-Fi cost that's being added to that facility.
For what cost?
Wi-Fi.
Wi-Fi.
Yes.
Annual.
Yeah, yeah, that's at the pool on the beach.
Okay. Let's move if we can. Yes, Tony?
So again, John or Lindsay, Mary Jo, again, the revenues again is based on, averages for the, going back prior to COVID in regard to 5,000. And you got pool charges at 8,000. I know that they were definitely not hit in this year if we made any money.
Correct. Yeah, that because most of this revenue comes from the pool admissions, and the pool was not open.
Correct. So these again are figures that prior to 2020, these are on average. All right.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, Tony, most of the revenues we're assuming that we're back up and running. Once again, I mean, on both sides, we also, the expenses are based upon us being back up and running as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Let us move to the Hodge Center, which is sheet number 4, page 147. There's some big puts and takes here. I see line 472, contracted services are down $18,150. Is there an explanation for that? Favorable state of affairs?
I know there's been a lot of change in programming and whatnot there, so I'm not sure. I understand all the programming changes, but it's probably due to that, I would imagine.
Yes, there's, so for contracted services though, I mean, currently the Hodge Center is being utilized mostly by other agencies such as BOCES, Family of Woodstock. I think Point of Praise has classes there. So, we're not running any Parks and Rec programs directly out of there by our staff.
But revenue line 2001, user fees are down to 0, which is a reduction of $20,000. That's a big hit.
I can't speak to why that cost was in there in the beginning, but there's, even when we rent out that building, the Hodge Center is meant to be, as much as possible, a free and open space for the community to utilize. We don't rent it out the way we do our pavilions or the Midtown Center. So there really is no revenue coming in that I'm ever been aware of, really.
In the prior year, 2020, I see $20,000. Now all of a sudden it goes to zero. I mean, that's a huge, that's a very fundamental. Yeah, John.
Unmute, John.
So what there was there is a, in the contracted services, then in the user fees, there were arrangements with the family of Woodstock that's no longer happening. So there was revenue anticipated coming in, expenses going out, which aren't going to happen. So that's why you're seeing both of them drop.
So they're offsetting.
Yes.
Tony?
So we're not, two questions. We're not charging anybody that uses the Hodge Center, like Family of Woodstock. That's, now you're saying that was a part of contracted services, so we're not charging at all?
They're not, no, they are not being charged for using the building. There's a user agreement in place where we have a collaborative effort. Our staff do maintain the building. They maintain the kitchen. They cook for a bunch of our programs, a bunch for the community, including our distance learning program. And so there really is a partnership that has been there, I believe, for quite a few years, and we plan to continue that.
My second part of this question, and so I just want to confirm, we're not planning on closing the Hodge Center down, because some people are asking that in the community. The Hodge Center is not being planned to be closed.
No,
Okay.
not at all.
Right.
Steve Shabbat? Steve, you had a question? Steve Shabbat, I saw your hand up.
Substantial increase in we had a lot of some appliances or something. That seems like a pretty big jump.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Can you repeat that?
He's talking about line 422, electricity, increase of $2,600 for electricity.
422, right?
422, thank you.
I'm just wondering, do we get some new equipment or something there? That seems like a big jump.
No, but so the Hodge Center, again, because they have been, using their kitchen more often, they've been cooking on a daily basis, not just for the kids in their program, but for our programs and for the rest of the community, especially during COVID. They were running, a huge food program out of their facility. And so not knowing the future of COVID, not knowing what the future is with the needs from that building, we do want to plan for them to continue what they're doing, which we believe will increase the electricity cost.
Great. Okay, thanks.
Can I just real quick? Yeah. And just for background, the electricity in that building has typically run in that range. I'm assuming it was for programmatic reasons with expected changes there for 2020. The budget was brought down to 4,400. I mean, the budget has typically in that department has been, for the last several years, it's been somewhere between $6,000 and $7,000 with the actual expenses approximating that amount. This year we're at 6,500 year to date. We're at 7,200 last year. So the budget for next year approximates what the actual spend should be.
John, there's also
We've overrun the budget for 2020, you're saying, and this is a reflection of that. Bring it more in line with what happened the previous year.
Yeah, okay. This is more in line with what we've been spending.
Okay, understood.
It might also be due to the walk-in freezer as well, the walk-in refrigerator area. So that might be just a little bit more electricity.
Yeah, that's probably a lot. Yeah.
Okay, overall, the Hodge, Steve Shabbat.
Yeah, sorry, just a kind of a random thought here, and it's really not for discussion for tonight. But I know in my
my previous work, we used the Hyde Center every Friday. We were involved with the Affordable Care Act, and we used the building to sign people up for free health insurance. And we used it for, I don't know how many years at it. We were never charged anything. I always wondered, why. I worked for a company that could have afforded it. It might be something to think about, that we ask for even a contribution towards electric and heat. Like I said, we were in there all day, using the heat, using the electricity. It might be something to think about. I'm not sure who's in there these days. But if we ever get somebody who might be able to afford it, it might be a good idea, even if it's a nominal fee, just to go towards electric and heat and services in the building. We got the office we used was cleaned. So we were using a lot of services there, and we didn't pay a dime towards it. Just food for thought.
Yeah, and I just want to add that the users currently, again, the Family Woodstock and BOCES in particular, they have made contributions. I know over the years, Family Woodstock has made financial contributions. I just don't believe it's there's been any kind of rented type of fee, but they've made additions to the building. I know that BOCES has put up improvements in the classrooms that they use, whiteboards and things like that. So I hear what you're saying, but I do think it's important to note that there's been, other kinds of contributions made.
Okay, in total, the Hyde Center expenses are
Great. All right.
are up a little, $3,600. Okay. Let's move on to the Midtown Neighborhood Center, which is sheet number 5, which is page 145 in the budget book. And there I see a huge reduction in regular pay of $49,850. Where's that coming from?
Again, that was part of the merger, Doug.
Yes.
Arthur, one of our laborers was, for some reason, for years had been assigned to that account number, and now he's under Parks. So he was just moved to a different account number.
Like where? Where did he go to?
To Parks, 7110.
Okay. All right. Other than that, I see that would account for a reduction in hospital and medical of $12,991, I presume. So, okay. So it's primarily the movement of that one person.
I would assume.
Yeah, other than that, there's small puts and takes throughout, but total variance is a favorable $83,363,000, mostly from that movement of that one person and hospital and medical associated with that, and retirement, Social Security. Okay, so it's that one headcount relocation. Okay, can we move to sheet number 6, which is Parks, page 148. And okay, here's we see a big hit, unfavorable in regular pay, line 101 of $178,048, and offset somewhat by seasonal employees, line 111. So in terms of personal services, what's happening there?
This is the account that took a lot of the brunt of the merger between Parks, Maintenance, and DPW. What you're seeing here is the addition of 3 employees, but not addition. I shouldn't say that I misspoke. It's the movement of 3 employees to this account from other accounts. So there's, there is one request for a new laborer in this account, but the other majority of it is 3 full-time employees that are now in this account that were in others.
And the reduction in seasonal employees?
that money, there was a substantial amount of money there for seasonal, and it kind of got moved around to reflect better where the seasonal maintenance staff was going to be needed. So it got moved into a few other different accounts and kind of evened out here. There wouldn't be quite as many seasonal maintenance under the DPW purview as there was before.
What about line one in equipment? Equipment line 203, motor vehicles, is down to zero, a change of $41,000.
Last year, some equipment had gotten moved into the budget instead of bonding. I think John could probably speak to this better. And then this year, we're not asking for that. We're not asking for it in the regular budget.
The capital plan, Doug, part of the capital plan,
Correct.
I'm assuming, right?
Yes, correct.
Put it underneath the Christmas gift, the Christmas wish.
The pickup truck.
Yeah, in the 360 turns mower.
Yeah. Okay, total for parks is,
I have a question.
who has a question? Tony, yeah.
So, Mary Jo, is this the you're saying movement of 3 full-time? I know of 2 full-time, and from Deet Stadium, has that been moved?
Yeah, the two Deet Stadium, and one from the Midtown Center, the count we were on just before, the 7142. He got moved to this account as well.
Okay.
So 7210 and 7142.
And that's why longevity is up as well, because of those switches.
Yes.
You've got a lot of reductions in the contracted expenses. Just about everyone has shown significant reductions, totaling $83,880. I mean, that's down from $107,000 last year. That's a huge, favorable increase. I mean, it's all been zeroed out. So does that mean, is that part of the merger?
Again, yes. There is an account under DPW 1625, buildings and grounds. We felt that was more descriptive of this change, of how the maintenance staff would be working more buildings and grounds than recreation programs at this point. And they're still going to be assisting with recreation. Don't get me wrong, but all of that money got shifted over to 1625.
Okay. Understand. Tony?
Tony Davis here again. John, and can you give me the actual revenue one for this year? And revenue for parks?
For 7110?
Yeah.
Yes.
That would be for park rentals, Tony, so it would probably be down.
That's what the recreation fees are? It's not for programs? No, it's for programs as well, right?
No, this is not for recreation programs. This is just for rental of parks.
So you're not going to be...
You're just about $8,000 right now.
$8,000?
Just about 79 change.
For what line, John?
2001.
So we expect that to go up to 2,300? 23,000, sorry.
And Mary Jo, what line or what department is the fees for the programs then?
It would depend on which program you mean, Tony, but
I'm talking about Biddy League and Biddy Basketball and, the flag football. Youth?
Youth, yes. 7310 youth, yes.
All right,
Biddy
thank you.
Basketball is youth. Summer camp is 7140.
Thank you.
Okay, move now to playgrounds. Sheet number 7. This page 142 in the budget book. Bottom line shows a favorable decrease, favorable $12,398, driven primarily in a substantial reduction in seasonal employees, $7,000.
I think, Lindsay.
Why that reduction? Is my
It's
question.
just an adjustment in the camp counselor, the camp counselors.
Yes.
I mean, you will need fewer of them, or you're
Well,
paying them less, or what?
We expect that if we're able to run summer camp to some level, we would expect that our numbers will have to go down. Not for any lack of interest, but we're just trying to think ahead and think smart. I'm sure our numbers are going to have to, by state mandate, be lowered.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
therefore, we staff. Yeah.
So that's the major change that I see in playgrounds. Okay. Moving on to programs for the aging, sheet number 8, which is page 137. This is primarily the very little change, dollars favorable, but contracted services are down by $15,000, but bus trips compensated by the bus trip, but there are going to be fewer bus trips, it looks like.
Yes.
So they balance out. Other than that, there's hardly anything happening in those budget lines. Fewer trips, so fewer expenses for buses and fewer revenue for those bus trips. I think that's pretty clear. Yes, Michelle.
I understand the need for less trips, but is there any way to plan anything for our this generation of people in our community? I know we've done a lot for the kids. I know that our elderly are definitely higher risk, but they are prone to isolation and feeling cut off. So I'm just hoping that there's something a little extra we could do in planning for them in the community.
Absolutely. And that conversation has come up quite a bit. We did actually start having some of our seniors come back into the Midtown Center. I think they're doing a canasta. There was supposed to be bingo, but at the very last minute, a lot of the participants didn't feel comfortable. So we are hopeful that we'll be able to do more next year. At least the fitness classes that they usually do. As you know, the Midtown Center is pretty large. So we feel confident that as long as nothing goes too sideways, with this pandemic, we do feel that we would be able to bring back some of these programs, but they have to feel comfortable. And that seems to be the conversation right now is that particular group of people, they are a little nervous about coming back into the building.
Understandable. Thank you.
Moving to Rondout Neighborhood Center, which is number 9 or page 143 in the budget book. What I see here are expenses that are going down by $95,273, but CDBG and reimbursement. Also the revenue going down by $107,000. So net, we show unfavorable about $11,877. So you're cutting expenses, but also the reimbursement is going down. I see regular pay, line 101 is going up somewhat.
That's just due to a regular step increase on the union contract.
Yeah, okay. But contracted services go to 0 again. How is that? Line 301.
That would just be, there might not be any capital projects scheduled for that facility for this year.
We don't have any.
That was
We have-
capital related this past year. The contracted services at 301 and then CDBG reimbursement is capital.
Okay.
Yeah, last year, I believe we gave CDBG money for ventilation, right? The
For
heating
the
system.
roof and the HVAC system.
Yes.
Okay, for a Rondout neighborhood, there's a small unfavorable value of $8,877. Okay, moving to sheet 10, the stadium, sheet 10, which is page 149. The big hitter there is regular pay going to zero. Now, this is a part of a merger, or how does that happen?
Part of a merger, Jug. Those employees went to or in the Midtown line item.
I'm sorry, Tony, what was your question?
Mary Jo spoke of that earlier. Those are the two employees that went to the Midtown, I believe, Midtown
The parks.
Parks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep. One Midtown center person and two from the stadium went to parks.
Okay, so that accounts for $129,529 in regular pay, and then all the employee benefits associated with that. So that total expenses go down by $253,168, and very small increase in revenues. So that all falls through the bottom line. That transfer results in $255,026 favorable. Due to the transfer personnel. Tony,
I just have questions of small items that if there's nobody up there and use 2,000 in telephone, if nobody's up there, why would we be using telephone?
I mean, my understanding is
electricity because of the stadium lights have to be on, but I don't see the telephone.
Yeah, I mean, my understanding is that the staff still go up there. I mean, no one is reporting there and staying there all day, but the staff do go up there. They still maintain the facility. They're in and out of the office that's up there. Looking into next year, we are hoping that for programs that we will be able to use more of our seasonal staff to go there and help out with those recreational programs rather than having people stationed there all day long.
And what's the other part? One other question, Lindsay, is about the contracted services of $5,000. What is that for the stadium? What's the contracted services? Line item 472.
I'm sorry.
yeah, the question is line 472.
Yeah. I mean, contracted services, it's utilized for a lot of different things. At this point, if the guys need anything that comes from there, any of the maintenance costs that come for, any of the programs, we utilize that line. John, I don't know if you have the actual number spent from this so far this year.
I'm looking it up right now. 1 second. So far, we have spent and encumbered with purchase orders just over $3,000. One of the costs there is the company that does the turf inspection.
Okay.
They were $2,850 for this year. So that's a good portion of it.
That is on an annual basis. Every fall they come.
Yeah. That's in 472.
Okay. Any other question on the stadium? Moving to youth programs, sheet 11, which is page 155 in the book. An increase of $6,700, primarily due to increase in seasonal employees. Line 111, an increase of $13,100 from zero to 13,100.
And that was moved from parks.
Sorry?
That was the seasonal money moved from parks.
From parks.
From the parks line, moved over to youth to be utilized more for recreation programs.
All right. Lots of movement going on here. Moving to the Zoo and Nature Center, which is sheet 12, page 151. An increase total $13,556 unfavorable.
Doug,
yes,
I just
Tony.
have one question before we moved on. John, could you give me what if there's any actual figures for that and revenue for youth? You're
back to youth services, Tony?
Yeah, youth programs. What was the actual number of revenue for 2020?
Which line item?
7310
youth programs.
Well, there's different accounts, but for the 2001 account, we're at 8,200 and change year to date.
Which line item are you talking about, John?
2001, we're at 8,200. Or we're at 1,200 and change on 2005.
That's the Biddy League account, Tony.
Okay.
Biddy League, flag football, the Cook basketball camp. That's, the youth programming that wasn't able to take place this year is there.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, we're now on to the Zoo and the Nature Center, sheet 12, which is page 151 in the budget book. The bottom line is favorable, 13,556, most of which comes from a decrease in the contracted services, line 472, 10,115. That's a big decrease in contracted services. Line 472.
That was the Time Warner fees, correct?
Correct.
Yep.
What?
There were Time Warner fees were moved over to the parks line or parks account.
Right. For the security cameras and the Wi-Fi expense got moved to the parks general. It was not quite appropriate to be in the zoo. It should have been in the parks in general.
Okay. Other than that, I don't see any real significant changes. Revenue sponsor fees down a little bit, $2,000 down. What is a sponsor fee? What's an example of a sponsor fee?
The sponsor fees, the junior naturalist program was run out of this account, and now it's run out of the sustainability account. So this is more about the facility itself now than the programming. So that's why you're seeing a little bit of a change here for that.
Okay. As I said, net favorable, $13,556. Again, it's moving money around to various accounts. Okay. Moving to environmental education and sustainability. Sheet 13, which is page 153 in the budget book. Very little change, favorable $531, but the one that stands out is reduction in consultants of $8,550, line 411. Zero.
I believe that item, Mary Jo, wasn't that changed over to DPW?
No, I don't. I think there was just they did use consultants and now they don't need to. First, it was probably for something specific. You might be thinking of the electricity, Linz.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yep.
Say again, Mary Jo, please.
I believe that they probably just had a fee for an organically consultant, and it's not used this year. It was in there before, but now it's not.
An organic consultant, you said?
Hudson Valley Regional Council.
Uh-huh.
They finalized the project, so they didn't need it for the next year.
That was
Michelle?
related to the EV stations, right?
I'm sorry?
Related to the EV stations? Or no?
Yes, also that, yes.
Michelle, question?
Thank you. My question's related to line 472, contracted services, and that's $2,000. That didn't exist last year.
For the EV station that's going to be installed on Prince Street, that's expense related to that.
What about, so the same thing would be 471, Michelle. I was just going to throw that one in there as well, because it looks like that's just new. Is that all the same, Mary Jo?
For 471?
It says service contracts, 5,600. And then, as Michelle stated, 472, which is contracted services of 2,000. They were never there before, so now they're there. And I was just going to piggyback off Michelle. What's that other line item for?
I don't have 471 under here, so I'm not sure, Tony.
I don't see that either. I'm sorry.
I don't see 471 under 7250.
I'm the only one seeing it.
I see it.
No, I see it. You're right.
I'm looking it up.
Service contracts.
I'll have it for you in a second.
And what did you say that 470, Mary Jo, while we're waiting for the EB for 472?
472 is the installation of the EV station at Prince Street.
It's for the fees related to the 471 for the fees related to the charging stations. Charge point fees.
471 is charging station, John?
Yes.
And where is that on?
That's for the various charging stations throughout the city.
Oh, several.
Do we get any grants on that? Because I know when I was looking at the license plate reader grant from the New York Power Authority, they had grants on even Wi-Fi and charging stations. And
yeah, we received grants for the stations, and I believe there was some length of time where some costs were included, but this is what's after the grant.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
I don't think they are the primary. Yes, Tony.
Andrea had her hand up first. I'll see to Andrea.
Oh, I'm sorry, Andrea.
Thank you, Tony. Andrea Schott here. I have a question because I know Sean, unfortunately, is leaving. Sean Custer, the environmental specialist. Have we replace that position? And is it going to be the same thing? I think if I remember correctly, a quarter of his came from engineering, right? Is it really running the same thing? He's going to have, whoever's going to take that position, if they haven't already, will have the same duties?
That's my understanding. I believe John Schulteis is the one that would be doing the hiring for that position. But my understanding is that he would a portion of his pay would still be coming from that line, that he would still be working between the two departments.
All right, so we haven't replaced Sean at all? That hasn't been filled?
Not yet.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe that's going to be replaced through the sustainability coordinator.
Tony?
My question was, and the user fees going down to the revenue, and what does that consist of? The user fees, is that the total?
That would be the programs that Mary Jo mentioned before, like junior naturalists. I know that the kayaking program, those are the types of revenues that come from that.
My only question then is on the next page in regard to position titles. Who does the rec leader report to?
Rec leader reports to me as the director.
Say it again.
A rec leader would report to me as the director.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that would be Keegan, whoever that rec leader is. She reports to you. Or he?
Yes, that's Casey. Yep.
Now, what's her responsibilities?
She will assume the full rec leader responsibilities. She will be. We still support the environmental education program, but we do feel that Casey has stepped up in a big way, especially during this pandemic. And so she's performing a lot of the rec leader responsibilities. And so it just seems that, we would be able to utilize all of her assets by making her a full-time rec leader.
So, and is she going to eventually move? Is that position going to move over to Parks, or is it going to stay here underneath this in this program here? If she's doing park and responsibilities, shouldn't she be reflected in Parks?
Oh, you're saying the designation of like not in this account? Correct.
If she's going to be a rec leader, I would think, would it be a fall in Parks or Midtown or neighborhood and Rondout, wherever she's going to be?
I mean, I don't see why that couldn't happen. But I don't know if there's any kind of, Mary Jo, is there any specific reason?
I think she's still going to be doing environmental education program, and I think she's under the ZBGA also, some of the funding from there, the grants.
Okay.
So she would need to stay in that line to.
Yeah, that's what I think. So.
She's still going to be doing environmental things as well as rec programs as well.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, is that it for environmental sustainability? That concludes our journey through the 13 sub-departments of Parks and Rec. Again, the bottom line is a favorable $307,395. Some big, huge puts and takes, primarily due to reorganizations or mergers, I should say, moving monies around. I think I understand it well enough. Are there any other questions? That I thank Mary Jo and Ed and Lindsay for being with it. Yeah, Tony.
I want to say thanks, Mary Jo. Good luck in your new future endeavors. I believe this is your last one. Lindsay, you rocked it today on your first one, but Mary Jo, you're going to be surely missed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mary Jo, for everything.
Thank you very much.
Thank
And
you.
I think that we should put a line item in next year's budget so she can come back and go through this with us again.
Yeah, yeah. I hope somebody was paying attention when they did the.
Without exception, I declare a unanimous vote for that to happen.
There'll be a lot of questions next year, so somebody better have that whatever Mary Jo's little book somehow.
Okay, with that statement, I declare that meeting adjourned. We will resume tomorrow night to go over the infinite number of departments within City Hall.
Oh, the Regent City Hall.
Yeah.
Get the coffee out.
See you tomorrow. Thank you, Andrea, for organizing this and inviting us all. Okay. We stand adjourned.
Good night, everyone.
Night.
Good night.
Bye, Mary Jo.